it's easier to know and not, it's easier to spend and not know than to know and not spend. Have you ever been in that situation where, you don't want to check your bank balance? Don't want to check and see how much money you have left in regards to credit on your credit card or a line of credit because you don't want to know the harsh reality of what you don't have. So it's easier to spend and not know than to know and to spend. Is basically may seem like a very simplistic and easy statement, but for most, it is not easy. It is terrifying for them to actually know what they're spending on a daily basis, because then it stops them. It slows them down from going to spend money. Not everybody, but some people it does. So it's always easier to not know and go spend money. I look at the fact of, I used this example before and why budgeting is so important. You'll have, and I've had this time and time again, even in my own life, before I discovered the power of actually knowing your ins and outs of money. So your inflows and outflows of money. I'd see in my account $300-400. The kids needed something or I needed something, just went and spent it. But because I didn't have a controlled budget or a control of exactly the inflows and outflows of money, I'd go and spend that money. Meanwhile, an automatic withdrawal for utilities would come out of my account a week later, or maybe I forgot about a payment on a vehicle payment, or whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden I'm in overdraft. I'm living with more month than I had money. Had I known, though, I may have thought differently. Again, not everybody will. They'll still go spend the money. They don't care if they're living in overdraft or in lines of credit or on credit cards. It becomes a norm for them that they use credit or overdraft as a form of income for themselves. Though it's really not income, it's a debt situation that puts you in a precarious situation and you're 6 inches between your ears, and it's called quiet desperation. You get into a point where the numbers in your life are overwhelming. You don't have a clue what's going on, yet you're still spending, and you will spend and continue to spend when you don't have charge of your own financial situation, your own numbers. The amount of money coming in versus the amount of money going out is so much more complicated, but it's also relatively easy to actually budget and understand that if I make $1,000 in a month and I spend $1,200, I'm behind the 8 ball. So if you actually understood that you're spending $1,200 and only bringing in $1,000, you actually know your numbers. You're not going to go spend $200-300 on something else to get yourself farther into the hole. And maybe you don't even have the ability to get into a hole farther. Maybe you've already racked up all your credit cards, your lines of credit, your overdraft, and you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. What does that mean? Well, I've done that. I've been there before. I've talked about it before. Not paying one utility bill for 2-3 months till I'd get a disconnect notice, and then using the money that I was paying the other bills with to pay that so that I wouldn't have my utilities disconnected, and then those other bills would suffer. And I'd wait till they'd go into collection or letters or phone calls or whatever the case may be. I lived that way for a long time, right? And on top of all that, I'd just be spending money like a drunken sailor. And it was because I didn't have charge of my numbers. I didn't understand the inflows and outflows. So it was always easier to spend and not know. But once I knew, it was a lot harder to spend because I understood the cold, hard reality that I could be stuck in debt for years, decades, maybe the rest of my life if I didn't get charge of my actual spending habits. Was I spending via controlled structure? Absolutely not. Like I stated, it's easier to spend and not know than to know and to go out and spend. Because once you know, it's harder for you to go out and get yourself in that situation where you're going to spend money because you see $300-400, maybe $500 in your bank account, and you now know that next week you have this bill coming out, right? The week after that, you have this bill coming out, and you're only the second week of the month, and instead of spending that money thinking that it's free money, oh, I got $500 in my account, now you won't, hopefully. Some people will, because I've been doing this for 18 years. No matter how much I help people try to get control of their numbers and their budgeting, they'll still go out, even though they know they don't have 500, that all 500 is accounted for over the next couple weeks for bills, or maybe they haven't even factored in the groceries, or they haven't factored in things that they haven't even sat down and calculated out. For an example, it's the month of March. Right away here, extracurricular activities open up for people to register for, and you have to have money. Soccer, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's Little League. Maybe it's, whatever type of spring, summer sport that you want to put your kids into. And if you haven't actually sat down and did a 12-month budget, you will completely forget about that. So all of a sudden now, little Johnny, little Sally wants to go into an extracurricular activity. You have those other two bills coming up, which you weren't aware of, and you went and spent money. So now you're behind the 8 ball because you don't have the money for those couple bills that are coming up. And then on top of that, you got to register one of your children or more than one child into an extracurricular activity, and you are on that hamster wheel of life, struggling, trying to get ahead, never seeming to get ahead. And all it could have been stopped if you sit down and actually structure. This is what I have coming in for income. This is what I have coming out for bills and for debts to pay them off. And if you have that all structured, and you're a parent and you've had somebody teach you, like I teach people, we'll go through those sorts of things. And in a March or an April, we'll put down little Johnny, softball, little Sally, softball, or soccer, or whatever the case may be, whatever sport. Maybe it's tennis. Maybe it's tennis lessons that start up again in the spring. Whatever the case may be, without structuring it and putting that in your budget, it's so easy to spend what you don't have, and the things that actually required that money catch up to you so fast, and it's so quick for a person to get into a situation where they have to go into consumer proposal or go into bankruptcy. Don't let that happen to you. Talk to me. Talk to somebody that can help you get your numbers into a spreadsheet of some sort and actually make sure you budget correctly. And there's a good way to budget, and then there's bad ways to budget. Most of the online budgeting stuff is a joke. It gets you to input numbers, but it doesn't get you to think long term with it throughout the year. It doesn't get you to think logically about your circumstances of your family. That's why you need to talk to somebody and have them work through your life, what goals you're trying to achieve, what are you trying to do. Oh, you want to get out of some debt. Okay, let's factor that in. Oh, you might have to go get another job. You're just not going to bring enough. All these expenses are not bringing in enough cash. You're going to have to get a second job. Or maybe you're going to have to look at doing a side hustle, becoming an entrepreneur, starting up your own business. But you'll never know unless you sit and talk to somebody, and unless you get your financial numbers into control and in a place where you can understand them clearly. You'll never be successful at a business if you can't be successful in your own financial life. I look forward to talking tomorrow. Hopefully this has been helpful. DM me, drop me a comment below. I look forward to talking to you the rest of the next 363 days, because I'm 2 days into the second year. God bless you all. Peace out. I'll talk to you tomorrow.